Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Williamson at Williamson NFL. Give me a follow. And this one's not going to be super Steelers-centric. That's not easy to say. But Myles Garrett has officially asked to be traded, and it greatly influences the Steelers and the rest of the division, of course. Now, let's get this out of the way, because nothing infuriates you guys more than when this comes out of my mouth. I think Myles Garrett is the best defensive player on the planet. End of story. It's not 1,000 times better than TJ or Bosa or, Micah Parsons. They're all in the same tier. We've had this conversation before. But anyways, folks, he is not going to be on your twice-a-year rival team, most likely. And he's also not going to be a Steeler. And he also is not going to be a Bengal or a Raven. I feel very strongly about that. There's no way they're trading this guy within the division. Although if I was Baltimore, I would be super interested. But that's not going to happen. So maybe you guys will hate him less. Maybe you'll even respect him more. I don't care. I think he's the best defensive player on the planet and a very, very special player, no-brainer Hall of Famer to be in the prime of his career. Now, I want to talk about a few things, though. First off, how it, from a Steeler perspective, I know a lot of you and a lot of people out there are saying the Steelers are spinning their wheels. They hit their head on the ceiling as a, 10-win team that sneaks into playoff and then gets blown out. You're in purgatory. Time to tank. I understand that. And I do understand where you're coming from. But I also think I've been in the walls of the Steelers facility a lot. And I spent a year within the walls of the Browns facility. And what I think is going to happen now is Garrett's going to get traded. And then I think they're going to have a fire sale. The guys like Ward, their corner, or Batonio, their guard. Things they can get picks for. And I think they will flat out tank. There was a lot of rumors before that they would try to get Kirk Cousins on the Russell Wilson league minimum deal. That makes no sense to me now if you don't have Myles Garrett. I don't think they draft Shedeur Sanders or Ward very early in this draft. Instead, maybe it's Abdul Carter as a Garrett replacement. And they flat out tank. And here's where I'm going with this is, boy, is that tough. And this is why the Steelers shouldn't do it, because the Browns have been down this road time and time again. And as an organization, they've never learned how to win. And I know this sounds archaic, but this is not fantasy football, folks. These are real human beings. And if you trade Cam Hayward and TJ Watt and you get every pick you possibly can, Minka, all of a sudden, the work that was done going back to Joe Green and Chuck Noll is erased in terms of this is how you win in the league. This is what's expected of you when you come to work every day. The Browns have never had that as an expansion team organization, a new organization. And now it's going to get worse. So I want to talk about some other things, but I think there's two approaches the Browns will take with this. The first one probably won't work out. I'm sure they would love to say, take Garrett and take Watson and his ridiculously awful contract and give us X in return. I don't think teams are going to do that. And I don't think, here's the deal. The way I understand it, the people that value what's cap space worth versus picks, is if I came to you as the GM of the Browns and said, what would you need from me to take Watson off my hands? Most people would come back and say, I need that top 5 pick. And it might not even be enough. So the Browns would have to give you, what do they pick? Second or third. I should know that, but I think it's third. No, there's 2. Anyway. I have to give you the second overall pick and Watson, and you give me nothing. Give me a 7th round pick. That's how bad it is. So I don't think they're going to trade Watson and Garrett for a 2nd round pick or a mid-round pick. You know what I mean? So I think these are 2 different deals. So I think how they handle it is they trade Garrett for a ton of draft capital. And that makes their decision easier in that, should we try to compete this year or tank? Okay, we're going to flat out tank. We're selling the farm. And we might as well just eat Watson's contract and eat our vegetables this year because we don't want to give up assets to dump them. So I think that's how that goes, which means they're probably going to be, if not the worst, one of the worst organizations next year and probably for a couple years. So I think one of your big competitors in the division has now become the 32nd organization overall after these deals happen. Now, trading Garrett might eventually work out for them because they're going to get a haul. Watson aside, they're going to get a haul. And I want to go through some teams that he might fit here in a minute as well. But I also think he's going to have a lot of say where he goes. You know, like, he's not going to go to the Patriots, even though the Patriots have a ton of cap space. I would think not. I mean, I think he wants to go to a winner at this stage of his career. And you can't look at the Patriots, even if you adore Drake May and Vrabel and what they're doing there, and say, man, okay, we're Myles Garrett away from knocking off the Bills in the division. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today and get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. I want to throw out some landing spots here and we'll wrap this thing up. But what I hope you take away from this is, first off, Myles Garrett's awesome. I don't care if you hate him or not. He's awesome. The Browns are now, if they already weren't, maybe the worst organization in the league and in huge trouble for the foreseeable future. Not that they weren't before this came out, but this to me is like the stamp of approval. He's no longer going to be in the division. I feel very strong about that. But let's just buzz through each division. AFC East. And remember, he's going to dictate quite a bit where he goes. I think the Bills are one of the best fits, if not the best fit. They have some cap problems, but they could also move Josh Allen money around. That might be the piece they need, the Von Miller piece that they wanted. I don't think anyone else in that division should be in the Myles Garrett market. I don't think anyone in the AFC South should be in the Myles Garrett market. Now, I should stop here because, frankly, 31 teams need to have the conversation. Like for the Steelers, it's moot. For the Bengals, it's moot, especially the Steelers. There's no chance he's coming here. And some teams just can't swing it, and some teams he has no interest. But every team should at least have the conversation of, what would it take? Let's make a call. This is a special player that's now available. But I don't think the AFC South will be in the Myles Garrett sweepstakes. I think the Chiefs will and should be. And the Bills and Chiefs should certainly be on Garrett's list. Garrett might even come to the Browns and say, here's my list. Eagles, Lions, Chiefs, Bills. Send me to one of those teams. Yeah, great. That makes them a lot more fun to try to knock off. But how could the Chiefs not at least consider this? Absolutely. I think the Chargers should strongly consider it. They have tons of cap space. Khalil Mack's a free agent. Makes a ton of sense to me. I don't think the Broncos or Raiders are in that conversation. Now, I think it's more likely that he gets dealt to the NFC. More of those teams fit for one reason. And I don't think that the Browns want him nearby, let alone in the division, nor should they. But I look at the East, and I'm sure the very outside-the-box, aggressive Eagles will at least throw their hat in the ring, but I don't see that happening. I think Washington would be really appealing if you can convince him that this is an up-and-coming team with a young quarterback. That's a huge need for them. Washington is really appealing to me. The other two teams are not. In the South, he's not going to go to Carolina. The Saints are the other team that's fighting the Browns to be the worst organization in the league right now and just bottom out. So that ain't happening. But I could see Atlanta or Tampa trying hard for him. You know, that would be enough to make us dominate this weak division. They make a lot of sense. Whether he'd go there or not, I don't know. Atlanta has Cousins problems, you know, in terms of cap space, but they've needed a pass rusher for my whole life. And Tampa would be the best team in that division with them. I look at the NFC North, and frankly, I think all those teams should be interested. The Vikings, the least so, just with their Darnold situation, they don't have the resources. The Lions make all the sense in the world, whatever you want for them. And oh, by the way, what's the compensation if you're the Lions? At a minimum, if I'm the Browns, and I'm talking to the Chiefs, the Bills, the Lions, you know, big time teams, I need your first this year. I need your first next year just to sit at the table, and probably more, maybe 3 firsts or the equivalent of it. You know, a young player, 2 firsts and 2 seconds, you know, something like that. So, but if I'm the Lions, and to get in on the game of poker is this year's first and next year's first, to put him opposite Hutchinson as Hutchinson gets back from injury, in a heartbeat, I'm doing it. I don't think the Vikes will. The Packers absolutely should. They need a star. But that's not how the organization is. They don't have an owner. They're a little different than everybody else. It's not how they operate. The Bears are a lot like Washington to me. Young quarterback, exciting new coach, tons of cap space for the Bears. Does Garrett look at the Bears, though, and say, I could get them to Super Bowl level team, you know, as opposed to the Lions, Bills, Chiefs, Eagles type teams I've talked about? I think the Bears should push really, really hard for him. In the West, it's a Niners type move. I just don't think they have the horses to do it. It's a Rams type move. And we might talk about Matthew Stafford tomorrow, by the way. But the Rams D-line is not their weakness, and I don't know what direction the Rams are going to go. The Cardinals are another team like the Commanders and Bears that, man, this could really take us up another level, but would he want to go there? Maybe Seattle too. So, I mean, half the league, I think, should at least have conversations. And every team in the league at least have to have a small conversation within their own walls. But the bottom line is, folks, this kind of thing doesn't happen very often. It sure looks like it's about to, or will. And the Browns, to me, are in a desolate place for a while. Even if they hit on these picks. You know, if they draft Abdul Carter, and he's great, and he's rookie of the year, fine. But I think they're going to sell a lot and be a bottom-out loser franchise that gets used to losing, as they often have, and which, to me, is a big reason you don't tank. All right, take care.